This is the world of the future. One step beyond your wildest imagination and your strangest dreams, where science has gone berserk with grotesque experiments in the ungodly art of flesh fusion.
The final phase of an accident of nature.
Welcome to Glowburn, a podcast dedicated to the Mutant Classics role-playing game.
Welcome to Glowburn, a podcast about the Mutant Classics role-playing game and old-school post-apocalyptic adventuring. I'm Judge Forrest.
I'm Judge James.
And I'm Judge Mark.
On tonight's episode, we'll be discussing the mutant class and mutant powers, but first, let's drop down in the shelter.
Down in the shelter.
Welcome to Down in the Shelter. This is the part of the show where we highlight MCC and DCC gaming, running the game, playing the game, writing this stuff, and anything else we're doing. And Judge Forrest, it's awesome to have you back.
Glad to be back.
So let's start with you. What you been gaming with?
All right, well, let me first take just a moment, and I'll try to be quick and explain where I've been, because I know on social media people are like, where the heck is Judge Forrest at? The short story is that in February, my mother passed away. And in April, my father passed away. They'd both been in the hospital since November. So I just wanted to make that clear so people understand what's happening there, why I've been a little less present online and in the gaming community. Had a few family things to take care of. So that in the rearview mirror now. What have I been doing gaming? Not a whole lot because of that. I did just this last week play in a Call of Cthulhu Modern Chicago Gangland game. We're playing gangsters, and it's actually kind of fun. And in terms of what I'm working on, I'm also working on a Call of Cthulhu episode set in early 1970s England. For those of you who are interested in strange British television, there is a lot of it from the early 70s and kind of inspired me. So I wanted to run with it. And also tomorrow, I will be talking on the phone with Reed Sanfilippo about something we talked about back at GaryCon. It's a super secret, ultra spectacular American thingy that I can't spill the beans on yet, but it's going to be big, and I hope it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And anyway, that will be taking a good chunk of my time in terms of gaming writing. But hope to get back in the swing of things very soon. I still have my second edition D&D game Tuesday nights, and sometimes DCC with Doug Kovacs, etc. on Saturday mornings. And I'll be running something this upcoming month. July is my birthday month, and so I'm going to be taking a Saturday and running a whole bunch of games that Saturday. And it'll be probably MCC. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. Let's move to Mark.
Yeah, so my gaming's actually decreased since the last episode. My Freeport game ended, and my Monday group is on a hiatus at the moment while I try to figure out what I want to do next. And I'm thinking about Omerica, because as much as MCC scratches a certain post-apocalyptic itch, it doesn't scratch the same itch that Omerica does. So I may be double-fisting post-apocalyptic gaming after Gen Con. The MCC campaign, you guys have missed the last... Yeah, Jim was in 2 episodes ago, but not this last one. Forrest,
right.
you missed a couple.
Yep.
So I I kicked off a hex crawl two sessions ago where Jim was at, and as a result of the players being the players, they decided to hunt down a tribe of Tibar and exterminate them for, I don't know, reasons, apparently. So the last session featured the group finding the ancient ruins where the Tibar have been hiding out, and the first portion of storming those ruins and eradicating all kinds of fluffy death bunnies.
Now, out of curiosity, because I've been missing it, do we still have our token ladybug mutant?
So Andy is going strong with his 1 luck mutant.
Sweet.
1 luck?
Wow.
Is that a 1 luck?
He burned himself down to 1 luck during the last session of Fallen Star for All.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I have probably not been as mean as I should, but with regards to that, but whatever.
You should just have him get food poisoning one night. Like, everyone eating rations, like, yeah, sorry, Andy.
He's the butt of every whim that I get. Like, if it's like, oh, something terrible happens, it's going to happen to that character because he's got a luck of 1.
Right.
If you survive 3 sessions, I'm just going to say, I think... And maybe like if I ever have a character with luck of 1 in one of my campaigns, I think if you survive 3 sessions with the luck of 1, you should get some kind of bonus, like plus 1d8 luck or something to get you back up again, or plus 10 luck, or if you can make it 3 sessions with 1 luck, that's incredible.
I'm from the Wampler school, though, where if you have a 1 luck, you walk out into the hallway and a ceiling tile falls and kills you. I mean, just get it over with.
Well, I kind of take a look at it from a different standpoint. I actually have, like, on my notes, because I have, like, a full notebook that I use for this campaign where I've got notes on artifacts that you guys have turned into the village and, how many days you spent during the last break in the camp and that kind of a thing. And so I have some notes with regards to like certain characters in terms of stuff that they've grabbed that maybe they don't realize does stuff. I'm pretty sure Alex is sitting on a couple of artifact weapons he doesn't know he has. Of course, now the cat's out of the bag.
Oops.
Beyond that, I haven't really done a whole lot of gaming. I have been working on my Alphabet of Outer Beings, and I'm 1, I think, from being halfway through. So I think I've done 12 out of 13 to get to the halfway point in the alphabet.
Nice.
The back half, of course, is the hard half because it's like all the weird letters and the stretch terms. Not the ones that are easy and make perfect sense. And actually, just today, I started brainstorming a list for what will probably be my 2019 project, which will be an Alphabet of the Apocalypse. So that's going to be kind of interesting. It's early days yet. I'm not going to start writing on that for a while, but that's probably coming from me in 2019. Beyond that, I've been playing some Fallout 4 using survival mode, which makes you eat and drink and sleep, and you have to deal with diseases and everything. So it kind of feels a little bit like playing Crawling Under a Broken Moon, except there's no magic. It's like a one-man band.
Is it permadeath or anything, or is it still?
It's not
like
permadeath.
Saved?
You still get it saved, but you can only save by sleeping. So you can only save by finding a mattress or a sleeping bag or a bed or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not permadeath. I mean, how hard is it?
It can be pretty frustrating when you've gone for a bit and you die and you realize that you haven't slept in a day's worth of game time. I've lost like 2 or 3 hours worth of play before. So I mean, it's not difficult from the standpoint of you could permanently die, but it can be frustrating from a standpoint of progress.
Yeah, I'm 90 hours into my character in the Long Dark on permadeath, still alive. So talk to me when you saved after losing a 90-hour character. So
Yes, well, that's perfectly fine for you. I don't have a. Is it available on Xbox? How about that?
I might be, actually. I know it's PS4, I think, has the Long Dark. You can play it and come chat in like the unofficial Long Dark room. I know that Michael Curtis is he's a huge fan of the game.
Yeah, so that's my gaming, or lack thereof. What about you, Jim?
Well, the move is complete. I am now permanently in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia, down in Delaware County. So now that we're here, actually I'm recording my new little gamer nook, which is the closest I've ever had to my own office, which is just in the front of the house. So when you come in our house now, you come upstairs, and the very first piece of art that greets you on our main floor is Grim Tina sawing a wizard in half.
Nice.
So I think that's appropriate for what you're getting into in our house. I was nervous coming here that I wouldn't get any gaming going, but I did have an event scheduled at the Games Keep in Westchester, PA for Free RPG Day, and I ended up running Judge Forrest Beyond the Silver Scream for a group of 7 players. 2 were my own spawn, and 5 were completely new to DCC. I think 4 of them were definitely new. I think one of them may have been new. I think, Ron, if you're listening, I think you're new to DCC, or maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Totally messed up the plot of the adventure. Totally screwed it up, because one of the PCs revealed very early on that his character was searching for his long lost father, Steve James II, and he was Steve James III. And he was so into this that we just rolled with it. The cult wizard who stole the girl in the beginning of the game, we made that his dad.
Nice.
So there was the showdown at the sacrificial table.
That's
where
awesome.
Steve James II's like, Steve James III, my son, join me. And he did. He runs over and joins him, and then the party kills Steve James III. And it's revealed that he's searching for, we're all looking for Steve James I, the grandfather. So when we kick off the next adventure, which will be in the middle of July 15th, I'll be running another game at the Games Keep. We're going to start with Sky of Crimson Flame, which will be the same characters, because that world, they traveled to a fantasy world, through the floor of a van, playing Blue Oyster Cult. And Steve James I will play a big part of Sky of Crimson Flame. And I'm hoping this is a monthly game we can get going. Carl, the owner of the Games Keep, is awesome. And just got to get the players coming back. I am setting the Eastern Forest of Sky of Crimson Flame in my same campaign setting that features Mark, our game, with the Purple Planet. So to the west of that world is the Shutter Mountains, and to the southwest would be the great city of the God Emperor Razul. So other than that, I've been playing a bit of Zelda Breath of the Wild on my new Switch, which I think has a post-apocalyptic feel to it. It actually is a post-apocalyptic game. There was a more, if anyone has ever played Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you are like on the ruins of an old civilization, and there's like, you're running around with an artifact. You have like an iPad you're running around with that can make magnetic powers work. So that's cool. I would have more to say about that, but I got hooked up with the Octopath Traveler demo on Switch last week and fell in love with that. And the last thing I have going on, the only blogging I have going on right now, is I'm doing this 30 days, 30 miniatures challenge, where every day, I'm on day 6 right now, I think. Every day I have to finish 1 miniature and that evening. Wow. And I have 8 miniatures completed. I was able to start. I kind of cheated at first because I counted any miniatures that were only partially complete, got to count as well. And I'm working through about 40 miniatures. Some are basic, some are real simple, and some are pretty complex, really cool, nice, high quality minis. I'm a big Frostgrave fan. I think I've said that before. And Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago. So I got a lot of minis to work through. That's all I got.
All right. Should we go on to listen to the voices of the Ancient Ones?
Let's hear them voices.
Voices of the Ancient Ones.
Welcome to Voices of the Ancient Ones. This is where we give you, the amazing Glowburn community, an opportunity to contribute to the show and send in your questions, comments, and other glowing words of wisdom. Our first write-in today, it comes from Glowburner Matthias J74 on G+. He writes, or maybe she, I'm not sure. They write, I just bought the MCC core rulebook, and I'm very keen to get started. I have listened to every podcast so far, and I'm loving it. Keep up the good work, guys. Oh, thanks. The thing is, I am new to the game system and have not played DCC at all. I am one of those people who have only ever played D&D since the Red Book, and just a smattering of other systems. I have a question. I hope it's not silly. How do you handle skill checks in this game? I noticed there are no skills in the rule book. So a player wants to jump across a wide gap. There's no athletic skill. A player wants to negotiate a fantastic deal. There's no diplomacy skill. A player wants to hack a computer to find out archived information. How do you veteran DMs work out skill checks? Jim, why don't you kick us off on this one?
Okay, well, first off, I want to, and this is not in the show notes, that we have some detailed show notes over here, but I wanted to mention that, so I'm catching up on old episodes of Gaming and BS, that podcast, which is an amazing podcast.
Yes, it is.
And I'm up to 185. I'm sorry, I'm up to 189, I think, right now. But I listened a couple days ago, 185, and it's called Can I Make a Check Too? And it kind of goes into like skill rolls and use of skill rolls and whatnot in your game. So first off, I'm going to plug them a bit because they're awesome. Second off, I'm going to say the question that Matthias is asking here, I think it depends on the skill, because I'm a DC kind of judge. I set the DC, ask the players to roll a D20 plus their ability modifier. I prefer this to rolling under, because when you roll under, you're robbing your player of a chance to burn luck properly. I mean, if they have crap tools, I might subtract a die step. If they have great swag, maybe I'll let them increase a die step. Occupation, like in DCC, plays a part. 'Cause in Dungeon World Classics, if you have an occupation, if you're like a cook by trade and you're going to like cook for the trolls, because that could happen, you get like a +3 bonus whenever you're using your occupation skill. So I would say for MCC, since there's only 2 occupations, if you were a hunter, anything occupation-wise that has to do with, I mean, stuff that could happen at a Cabela's, that would qualify for that. And then if you're more like me and you're at Whole Foods a lot, you're probably a gatherer. So anything that has to do with your Whole Food shopping experience, like, you know, last weekend when I was on the search for bok choy, that would be more of I'd have a bonus to that, but not a bonus of going to Cabela's. So there you go. Mark?
So, wow. I'm gonna rebut here. I don't understand your whole thing about not being able to burn luck properly. But I'll get to that. At GaryCon, I was, exposed to GMs who have you roll under attribute for everything instead of having luck be a roll under, but trying to jump over whatever, a gorge being a high roll with your, agility or strength or whichever, stat you want to apply. And part of that, I decided my transition is partly based because I'm lazy and I don't want to have to think about like, oh, what's the DC on this? I can just go ahead and be like, hey, all right, give me a roll under your strength. I'm also a GM who uses the dice chain all of the times. I mean, I think the 2 of you guys have played with me enough that you've seen me use the dice chain for all over the time. If you're a hunter or if you're a gatherer or if you're an Olympic gymnast as your background, maybe jumping is going to be easier. And so I would let you roll a smaller die instead of a D20, you'd roll a D16. If you also had, spring shoes, because this is Mutant Classics and maybe you found some springy shoes, aka Nikes, maybe you get to roll even lower and get to D12. With regards to luck, let's say that you've got a strength of 9 and you roll that D12 and you get a 10. Well, you burn 1 point of luck and you can subtract 1 point from the roll and it becomes a 9 and you pass. So I don't see a problem with it. I don't know. That's my thought.
I'm with Mark on this one, and I know it goes against the canonical rules, but get over it. You'll see, though, that I'm going to totally contradict myself when we get down to mutagenesis later. But I do. What is MCC and DCC if not flexible? There are certain games, you game as you like, but there are certain games that I think common sense goes out the window with skill checks. It becomes burdensome. And to me, role-playing is about role-playing. It's not about worrying too much about those checks. I mean, use your common sense. Yeah, if there's something exceptional that needs to be done, sure, I'll make a roll against that. Or if the stakes are really high or it's a key critical circumstance, sure. But most of the time you can use common sense. I mean, if you have to make a skill check to light a torch, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, I like the rolling under just because it's easy, and it's probably because it's years and years of habit, because that's how I house ruled all the way back to AD&D first edition. So yeah, the DC thing, I see the point, and I admire those judges who can use it. I'm like Mark. It's tough sometimes to decide where to set the DC, and so I like rolling under with modifications. I like the dice chain idea. I think that's great. Again, like I said, I'm going to totally contradict myself when we get down to mutagenesis. So there I am, a man of contradiction.
The other reason I like rolling under is that it makes the actual stat mean something.
Meaningful, yes.
Because you only get a plus or a minus every, like, approximately 3, right?
Yep.
So if you're doing a standard DC where you've got to roll, add your modifier, and get a certain number, you're only getting a +1 every 3 or so stat points. Whereas if you're rolling a d20 and trying to get equal to or under, every point you have is a 5% chance better to succeed.
Right.
And so because I never liked the idea of stats that don't mean anything and just give you a bonus, if that's the case, why even have the numbers written down? I just, roll them, determine what your bonus is, and write the bonus down and ignore everything else. Mm-hmm. So that's a second factor.
I agree.
All that said, I just would like to go on record to say it's in the friggin' rules for DCC. That's how it works. So toss that out there. So just saying, while you're rule schmoozing here, you guys can show up with, I don't know, sentinels that have mutations, I guess, and, halfling wizards and all that crap. The second thing I will say, just to, again, refute, because this is going to be, let's get some hate mail over this one. I will say this, the fact that the players who complain that, rolling 3d6 in order, you're going to have these characters that are unplayable. One of my challenges to that has been a 5 is not an unplayable stat. You're only talking -2 to an action if you're making a roll for something, for a skill or whatever. It's a -2. It's not insurmountable. But however, if you are going to use this roll under nonsense, well then, unless it's luck, of course. Luck, you roll
5
under.
is not an unsurmountable number. It's still a 25% chance to roll. Possibly better if you've got a lower die.
But a 5 for with the way the rules are actually written, is only like a -10% chance because it's a -2 on a d20, right? Something like that. So
you are correct. The modifier method that you use flattens out the ability scores a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like the extremes do not hurt or help as much in the way that you do it compared to the way that Forrest and I do.
I'll have more to say on this when we get to the main section of this episode.
We can't go there yet. We have to get to Judge Joan here. Yeah. All right, for our next question here, my good friend Judge Joan Schroyer writes, prepping for the museum at the end of time. Question, Glowburners. An enormous serpentine creature attacks and may do damage that exceeds the hit point total of the prey, PC, equaling instant death. Then the next paragraph describes those that are non-suicidal PCs run, and, now my question, as they flee, the Selene Serpent will randomly pick off 1d3 of the PCs before reaching safety. What if I roll a 3 and have only 3 to 6 players at my table? All or half of the players are now out of the game. Do you have players play more than one level 1 PC? What do you think, Mark?
So I had to go back to the Museum at the End of Time. It's the Free RPG Day 2016 MCC preview. So I had to go back to the book because it'd been a while since I looked at this thing. It is a 0-level funnel, but it sounds like Joan is using it as a level 1 adventure, which I think for the most part is fine. Obviously, this particular encounter is going to need some degree of modification. Now, I wouldn't change the Selene Serpent, whatever you want to call it, itself. I don't really believe in changing the monsters unless they're not tough enough for the level of the characters. I mean, if you were running it for like a level 3 group, then you might want to potentially give this thing a little bit more juice. I don't know. Obviously, you don't want to TPK in the first encounter because that's probably not going to be fun for anybody. So you probably have two options. Now, if you are running with a level 1 group, you could run a bunch of zeros. Adding them to the group would help to staunch the flow of blood / replace the downed level 1 PCs if that's what it came to. That might still feel like a ripoff to anybody who loses a level 1. So ultimately, I think what I would suggest is to have the creature only attack a single character. I would determine it based on lowest luck score. You could do other methods. You could just do pure random chance. And I would make sure that, you play it as it's written. So they still need an attack roll, right? You can't just do it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I usually don't let my players have more than one level 1 PC, but that's often because a lot of my players are either new to ZCC or MCC or because they're kids, and having 8 kids at a table with 2 level 1 PCs sounds terrible. Oh, God. Worst idea ever. I would agree to modify this to 1 PC, but I don't like the, pick off. I want to make sure it's like another attack roll, just another attack. I'll say that, in my experience so far with DCC, and I think MCC will be the same, you gotta really look when you're running a 0 level funnel for first level characters. Sometimes I think the 0 level funnels are better suited adventures for second level characters. You're only gonna run, one single character through there. Just a thought. I mean, especially when it comes to those instant kills.
Yeah.
Judge Forrest?
I'll sometimes let a person run a level 1 PC and 1 or 2 zeros as a backup. Especially if they've gone through a funnel and they've had, more than one character survive. We'll bump one of them up to level 1. The other one sits in the caddy, as it were. But if you only run 1 character per player, I'd limit this to 1 potentially dead PC. I'd make them roll a d20 against their luck. Every person who's a possible target, and those who roll higher than their luck are going to be potential targets. Again, going to the roll lower than your score. Then I would number off the potential targets, and I'd have a player roll the appropriate die to select the target. So if you have, 4 targets left, one of the players rolls a d4, randomly determine which one gets hit. You might give that person a chance at a reflex save, be able to get out of the way. But the important thing is to have one of the players roll the random target so that you're not the bad guy.
Yes.
Deflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't blame me for killing your character. It was Bob that did the rolling.
Right. It wasn't my fault. Come on.
That was a great question, Joe.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, that was excellent. I had forgotten about that entire encounter, actually. So, kudos.
Next, we have a long one. Dan Stevie. Hi, Dan. Writes, my phosphorescent friends, congratulations on an entertaining podcast about an RPG that is now finally available to the masses. The wait appears to be well worth it as I hold the excellent new tome in my hands and prepare to break it in shortly. I will be the first to point out that my thoughts on the game so far are uninformed by actual play experience, and that my opinions will most likely shift once I've actually truly experienced the game. The closest I can claim at this point was playing 2 Fossorians in Numerica games at GaryCon this year. Rest in peace, Growlhowl and Growlhowl Jr. But for now, you get my uninformed manimal rant.
Okay, hold on. We got to stop you there, Dan. We promise to read the full text of your letter to us on the next episode, which we'll record in a couple of weeks. It's going to be all about manimals and plantians. So you make some great points, but given the focus of that next episode, we think it's a good idea to pump the brakes a little bit and hold that over for when it's going to be really spot on for the episode.
And I think that's going to be an exciting discussion, too.
Yeah, I think so.
It's going back in the shelter. We're throwing it back down there.
That's right. It's going to come back and haunt us, though.
We got to let it ferment for a little bit.
It's a good one.
The Great Disaster.
Go, 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 go!
Welcome to the Great Disaster. This time around, we're going to be talking about mutants and mutations. So, mutant. What is a mutant? This is the direct quote from page 34 of the rulebook. You are among the most bizarre of all the many sentients wandering Terra AD. Never breeding true to form, yours are a people of infinitely variable appearance, temperament, and mutation. The mere sight of you almost always gives others pause. You have been taught to embrace this lineage, for what curses you from birth also makes you very powerful. So, what about the role in the party of the mutant? Mark, what do you got there?
We get super freaks. I mean, this is like right out of Rick James, right? Super freak. It's super freaky. Seriously, though.
Cocaine is a very powerful drug.
Mutants are... they're hard to pin down. What with the different mutations, both mental and physical and mega, and the defects, there's so much variability based on their powers. It feels like they don't really have a well-defined role as a class. Instead, they sort of find their role based on what their powers are. In our game, Andy's character, who's a mutant, has super high AC because he's got like Carapace and Shorter, which give him AC bonuses. So he sort of plays the tank, even though he doesn't have a lot of hit points, because he's really hard to hit. I don't know, Jim. What is your thought?
They definitely don't have a defined role, that's for sure. Or they might have a defined role. It depends on the role. Their role for defined role depends on the role that they roll, right? So if I had to compare mutants, does that make sense? If I had to compare mutants to another class from fantasy RPGs, I'd say the Psionicist from AD&D 2nd edition, from the Brown Complete Book of Psionics or whatever. Mm-hmm. Sure, they can be anything, but even if they're kind of fighty, a well-armed, well-equipped Sentinel may fulfill the fighting role better. So unlike pure strain human classes, I think I want to say that like the mutant kicks off the 3 nicheless series of classes because, any of the 3 classes coming up, mutant, manimal, or plantient, can end up on either side of the scale of usefulness to the party. They could be great, they could be terrible, they could be right smack dab in the middle. It's like, again, the Psionicist. Imagine if you have to roll all of your psionic powers randomly, and then that's, how a mutant is.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you, but I have to agree with you. Mutants have the potential to be kind of all over the place, which can be really fun or really annoying. And I'd agree, the mutant is about as classless as you can get, especially if you have the gas generation mutation, because no class.
I want to mention that, when we ran, it was our second part of my daughter Evie and I running through Hive of the Overmind, and we ran it in 2 parts, and they got their classes in the second game. And one of our player characters, we had 2 mutants at the table that were on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, and there was a little bit of jealousy going on, because one of them, none of their mutation powers, except for I think a slightly boosted armor class, were anything, none of them were working. They all were just rolled less than a 10, and then I think one of our players, I think it was Ella, her character was, I don't know if you guys have seen was that show Jessica Jones, the show
Jessica
on
Jones.
Yep. The power, essentially the power that the 10th Doctor has in that. I know it's not the 10th Doctor, but you know what I mean, the power that
Kilgrave.
Yeah, her, I don't know whether it was mind control or assimilation or whatever. I mean, literally, not only was she rolling great, she just controlled the minds of everyone she met. So 2 extreme ends of the spectrum. Same class.
Yeah, there's definitely variability, what with power assignment as well as power use, right? I mean, it's the same thing with a wizard or a cleric if you're having a bad die day, which, man, I mean, I've been on the receiving end of those.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you have.
So going through the rules themselves, your mutant gets a D5 for hit points every level. For mutations, they get 1d2 mental mutations, and they get 1d3 physical mutations. The mutant horror ability gives them an initiative bonus for just being weird, which is kind of weird, but again, it fits, I guess, because it's weird. Reverse evolution. So this is the pure strain human fallback option. That's the one where they can turn it. How does that work again?
So if they lose all of their mutations and defects, they cease to be a mutant and they become a pure strain human.
Now I have a question about that.
Sure.
Okay, and sorry to throw us off the show notes, but this is my question.
Nah.
Throw us.
A pure strain human, as it was explained to me by Mr. Wampler, a pure strain human has a mutation that they do not gain any mutations. So my question is this. Mm-hmm. If you're a mutant and you go to the fallback option, as it were, can you gain a mutation afterwards? No. You're physically incapable of ever getting a mutation ever again.
Because essentially you mutate into a pure strain human.
So you receive the mutation of not having any mutations at that point.
Correct. Also, I would say that the human luck regeneration is a mutation. but I will talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on. So, where was it? Okay, so they have the Radburn, roll a 1 on a fort save versus radiation. They mutate anew. Glowburn, they get to sacrifice themselves and add points of their stat pool to their mutation checks. And then Artifact check, which is mediocre. They have the best non-pure strain human check, but it ain't great. They have AI recognition, like all classes, they have that, but it's not that great either. At least they might pass for a human. And there is an archaic alignment, the Children of the Glow, which I think I've said before in the show, is insanely overpowered because members get a +5 to all mutation check rolls when gaining a new passive mutation or defect.
Bah! I refute your claim of overpower.
You refute my claim.
Yes.
Okay. Refute away, sir.
So the reason why it's not overpowered is that the cost to join the Children of the Glow is not walking up to somebody and going, "Hey, I'm a mutant, can I join?" And then they give you a button and teach you the secret handshake. Children of the Glow have to go out into the wilds. They have to find a location of extreme radiation, and if memory serves, they have to spend a week in an area of extreme radiation and survive. Plenty price to pay to maybe gain that 5 bonus.
It doesn't say extreme. It says known radioactive area.
Yeah.
Again, when we were discussing these, I think when it was Judge Forrest and I, we went through the book, this came up during that show as well. And I do remember saying that it depends on the judge. And if it's something that you could die, this might be worth it. If it's that could kill you.
Yeah, I recall you saying that.
Yeah, if you just say, I don't know, go show up at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, eat at a diner for a week, probably will still kill you. But it's a different kind of death.
I mean, I look at it as, this is post-apocalypse land, right? So, I mean, I'm assuming that, like, the background radiation is not, like, it's higher than it would be now. A known radioactive area is somewhere where it's going to be, like, you need to make a fort check every X increment of time because of the radiation. And if you fail it, you're going to take damage, And granted, if you're a mutant and you critically fumble it and get a 1, you, like, could mutate further and get something cool, but you could also just take more damage and maybe get a defect. So I think the bonus is balanced by the difficulty of joining this particular archaic alignment. I mean, it's not like the Clan of the Cog or the Atomic Equinox, where basically, like, so long as you're, like, the Atomic Equinox, like, so long as you're a Plantian, like, you could just kind of show up and be like, "Hey, can I get a membership card?" And they're like, "Sure, here you go." There's no real stringent requirements, and as a result, their bonus is basically like, you don't get lost. You have a map. Like, yay, I could talk to plants.
Pardon me for being a contrarian, but why are we even talking about being overpowered? This is Mutant Crawl Classics. We should not even be talking about game balance. Goes back to the skill checks, right? Yeah, come on. It's swingy. Get over it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair.
So what works? Judge Forrest, what works?
Well, I want to say that if they're done right, that mutants can be a lot of fun, but there is no done right because you're rolling randomly, right, for your mutations. And I kind of like the fact that swinginess that DCC is known for is baked right into the character generation for MCC. I love the fact that it's baked right in there.
Mark?
So I think, as far as what works, that this is the class out of all of the MCC classes. It is not a class that feels to me like just a post-apocalyptic skin of a DCC class. The mutations, the way that the character plays with the weird initiative bonus from mutant horror and like the Glowburn and Radburn and the reverse evolution stuff, they all really kind of help to fuel that feel of this is a post-apocalyptic game in a world ravaged by radiation and God knows what else. The mutant powers themselves are also extremely fun. They are similar to spells, from DCC, like functionally wise. If you know DCC spells, then that's similar to how mutant mutations work. But they all feel very different from DCC spells, in my opinion. And I think this is the class that really makes MCC be MCC in my book.
Well, I hope so. It has the mutant and it's Mutant Classic. So yeah, without it, technically, you're right. Even without that game, Judge Jim would have to have called it Plantient Crawl Classics. PCC. It does not come across as well.
Or Sentinel Crawl Classics.
Yes.
Maybe they could. Well, it could be Manimal Crawl Classics. You could still have the initials.
Yeah. So my take, what works with this is, I think there's a ton of fun with all of the different mutations and everything they can do, even the defects. This is a fun character class to roll up. Actually, this is an immensely fun character class to roll up with other people around you. I think if you are playing a game where, it's the first time everyone playing, at the end of the adventure, everyone's leveling up to first level and you went from 0 level, I think you do a disservice to the table if in your other players, if you aren't rolling the mutations for each character right there in front of everyone. I remember there was such this really cool feeling of excitement when the mutants and then the Manimals, we didn't have any Plantians in that first group and they were all kids. They were trying to see what they were going to get. It was like Christmas morning.
It's intense.
Yeah. What am I going to roll up today? So that worked. I like that. It was fun.
Well, what about, what doesn't work, Jim? What do you not like?
Rolling a 1 on your mutation check totally sucks. You have 5% chance to take the wind out of your sails because you're losing mutation. That's a rough penalty.
Hold on. You don't lose your mutation in every instance.
You don't?
So physical mutations, most of the physical mutations you have, if you roll a 1, you have the potential to lose them. But the mental mutations and all of the mega mutations do not have that effect. They just are can't use it for the rest of the day and I think gain a defect.
I stand corrected. So a couple episodes ago, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just things that are tough. And I think that the D5 hit points can be harsh. If you have all physical fighty type mutations, if your mutations have you being a frontline type character and you have a D5 in hit points, that's rough. That can be rough. Judge Forrest?
I think that what doesn't work is the potential for suckitude is pretty high. It's pretty high if you have an inexperienced player. And that's that can be tough on a new player. Experienced players should be able to take a completely and utterly pathetic abomination of a character and really rock the world with it. That people who've been playing DCC for a while, that you should be used to. You roll as Chrome intended and you take what he gives you. But for newer players, it could be a little bit off-putting. What do you think, Mark?
So, sort of a little bit echoing what you were saying, Forrest. I think the randomness is going to turn some people off. When you're playing DCC or if you're playing a pure strain human, like you get a choice. Like, my pure strain human is like, I'm gonna choose Sentinel or I'm gonna choose Healer or Shaman or Rover. In this instance, it's more like racist class, so you kind of just get shunted directly into mutant, and then the mutant powers and the way that the skill checks work and the way that the defects and if you roll a 1 and on a physical and. So there's a lot of that randomness that is really going to work for some people. They're going to just take that and they're going to run with the crazy results. And then there's going to be those people who really get turned off by it. And as I said earlier, like as with spellcasters in DCC, if your dice are cold, you could have a really bad session just because your dice are cold.
Honestly, the worst result I think would be something in the middle, where you're not totally crappy and you're not totally awesome, where you're just kind of like, okay. Yeah. I'm basically a PSH that looks a little different.
I don't know. I ran a session right before we moved. I ran a session of Country Crawl Classics that took place on the Warden for Metamorphosis Alpha in like a backwoods section of the Warden and
redneck sector.
Yeah, we did mutations for that. And there was a couple player characters that had some pretty terrible mutations because they had defects and crap mutation, like the crap mutation rolls and then defects. So it was fun though. As always, it's fun.
So what are some examples in fiction? Mark, what do you think?
So, I mean, I think obviously Marvel all of the X-Men, all of the, meta-humans from DC. Those are mutants. Those are superhero mutants. But, given that they're modern day setting and that 90% of them don't have any physical tells, Beast being an exception, they're not really necessarily the best examples. I really like the anime and the manga Full Metal Alchemist has these characters that are homunculi. They're artificial people, but they really feel like mutants to me. Like they each have one very powerful, very strange ability. Like one has the ability to like elongate claws from their fingers. Another one can literally eat and digest anything. There's another who has like this eye that can see perfectly, like to find a weakness. Very much feel like mutant powers, and those characters are all, the homunculi are almost all just a little bit off. Like they are not normal people, and so they really kind of feel like mutants to me. And of course, that's not really the right genre. But getting closer, since I've already opened the door to anime, I'm going to say the old-looking psychic kids from Akira. Mm-hmm. They look like they're 60, but they got like crazy psychic powers. And of course, Akira is a, sort of post-apocalypse. I mean, it's not really, but like something did blow up Tokyo.
Proto-apocalypse, really.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yes, yeah, well, and then, of course, Tetsuo, at the end of Akira, goes full mutant and turns into a giant cyborg baby thing. And then one last anime, which is the evil ninjas from Ninja Scroll. I think there's 7 of them. They all have, like, a weird ability. Like, one of them has a swarm of bees living in them, and another one's made out of stone, another one generates lightning. None of them look quite right. I mean, it's a very stylized anime to begin with, but they all look very different, and they all feel very sort of mutant to me. It's absolutely not a post-apocalypse. Although, maybe if we had like a Far East post-apocalypse game, like it could look like that. I don't know.
Sure.
What about you, Jim?
I struggled. I really did, especially since Mark got to the show notes first and pretty much said X-Men, and I'm like, ugh. It's just hard. It's really hard. What's hard? The idea of a character having a lot of mutations or multiple mutations, that's kind of X-Men-ish. So that's hard. I came up with a few. So Ripley from Alien Resurrection, at that point in the movie, spoilers, in the series, she's like, genetically fused with an alien. Mm-hmm. That's not a mutant. So it's kind of like a controlled mutant. Definitely the Mariner from Waterworld, which is, Kevin Costner at his finest. He's, there's the guys like, he's a muto, and they look behind his ear and he has like the gills and stuff. So he's a mutant. And Blanca from Street Fighter 2. Remember Blanca? He's like the big green-haired beast guy, and if you hit the punch button real fast, he generates electricity.
I never played Street Fighter 2.
I don't remember him. I've played it a few times, but I don't remember him.
I pumped a lot of quarters in the Street Fighter 2. I would even say Dalsim from Street Fighter 2, who fights with the power of yoga and can extend his arms and legs and then breathe fire. Chances are he's not just a yogi, because I've done yoga. I have not done that. Been able to breathe fire, okay?
Yet.
No.
Yet.
Okay. Yet. You know what? Maybe I need to unlock the 10th level of yoga or something. I don't know. I don't have that ability.
You need to unleash your chakras.
You need to do Bikram yoga? Maybe that's the key.
No, I
need to do the hot yoga.
I do not do hot. No, heck no. That's, if you do that, you can endure that. That's awesome, but I can't do that. But I had a hard time with it. And yeah. So, Forrest?
So I have 3 examples, 2 of which I thought while you guys were talking. One of which is, of course, that's a benefit of going last, yes. Right? But the mutants from Wizards. I mean, they're mutants and demons on the bad guy side, right? So from James's favorite movie, basically anybody in a Nazi uniform is a wizard, or is a mutant. Sorry, in Wizards. Also, the Morlocks from the Time Machine.
Time Machine.
Yeah, that's right.
They're mutated humans. That's what they are. And my favorite, though, is Quato from Total Recall. And if it's been a while since you've seen that, this is the stomach mutant guy.
Quaid.
Yes.
Quaid.
Open your mind. Open your mind. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So He's one of my favorites anyway. So those were the ones that popped into my mind right away. Well, the Quato did anyway, but the others took some time, I guess.
So Jim's mention of Ripley from Alien Resurrection actually got me thinking, and I'm going to add Seth Brundle from Cronenberg's The Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, he's not really like a random mutant, but he's
manimal, though.
spliced with a fly.
He's a manimal. You stole my manimal character for the next episode. Okay.
Oh, no, that is mutant.
He's not. He's a manimal. No, he's not. He's a fly
I think he's a
guy.
manimal.
I
vote manimal.
All right, I'm overruled. It's
You're
fine.
entitled to your opinion.
It's fine. Let me guess, but my opinion is wrong.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, that was from you. Let's chat mutations a bit, okay?
Shall we?
So we have a moment here to discuss the mutation powers themselves. The text on page 42 says, in the post-apocalyptic epoch of Mutant Class 6 RPG, nearly every living creature has mutations of one sort or the other. Technically, even pure strain humans have evolved the mutation of being impervious to further mutation. Not since the Cambrian explosion has the world seen such a drastic evolutionary acceleration of experimental body types, sensory enhancements, and abilities to manipulate matter and energy. So, what role do mutations play in the game? And since he hasn't written anything yet in the show notes, I'm going to throw this uncomfortably over to Judge Forrest.
Wow, that is pretty uncomfortable. But rolling the game, yeah, because I saw your guys' notes, and I don't really have anything to add except that there's this element of randomness that I love. I think, could you do the game with specific subclasses based on mutations? Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could have like the psionicist mutation type stuff, or you could have, I don't know, multiple limb people, whatever. But the randomness, again, I think is what makes it so fun and scary at the same time. So, Mark, what do you think?
And so MCC's got, it's got DCC as a predecessor. DCC has, a bunch of guys, and it has some spells, and it has some clerical spells, and spells are spells, even if they're clerical spells. The mutations in MCC are kind of like spells, and I think they feel to me like the equivalent of spells, more so than wetware, even though wetware is by far the closer in terms of mechanics. But the big thing is they are the critical link to the genre and the theme of the game. I mean, it wouldn't be Mutant Crawl Classics without the mutant powers, right? Mm-hmm. Instead, it would be DCC without magic. and the fact that some of the mutations have permanent effects, that they're like passive boosts. Like I've got a carapace, so I've got a passive armor class bonus, or I've got crazy high strength or stamina or whatnot, and then some are active where you can like project flame or like generate farts. I think that really helps the mutations stand out from spells even more so. So I mean, to me they are the equivalent of spells from DCC, but they are very much different than spells.
That's why I keep equating them back to psionics from 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, just because there's such a feel that I have for them of being on the cusp of spells and abilities, and it's somewhat of a different mechanic, but it's not to spells. So when I read through the book the first time, I thought, yeah, these are the same thing as spells, but there's something different. They're definitely more powerful than some spells, and they're some are less powerful, and there's the drawback of potentially being gone, plus you have the defects, which is something that's important. I guess you have in DCC, you also have corruption, but defects are a bit more active. Again, in our Country Crawl Classics on the Warden game, one of the player characters, I think it was my friend Frank. You've played with Frank before, Mark.
Yep.
In Numenera, every character had one mutation and one defect, because they were sort of 0 level, and the mutation was supposed to be their superpower. I was trying to see how close to a supers game we could get with DCC and MCC combined, right? And his mutation gave him a +3 to his agility, and his defect, which was like like unwieldy tail or something, gave him a -3 to his agility. So his
Nice.
superpower was just there to offset his like giant tail or something.
Nice.
That's so good.
That's evolution in action, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Let's go through some of the rules then for mutations. There's 4 flavors. You have your physical, your mental, your mega, and your defects. Your physical affect the body of the mutant, granting new abilities or improving existing ones. There are mutations here for a number of basic augmentations like strength, agility, stamina, armor class, and speed, and a bunch of ways to generate energy to attack with. Mental mutations, they have the ability to generate and control energies or the ability to affect others. Increased intelligence comes in a couple of different forms, and there are a couple of variants of mind control plus some direct damage attack powers.
Yeah, so there's also mega mutations, so there's a mega physical and there's mega mental. They're the more powerful versions, right? They are the mutation taken to 11. They either have a greater scale, so maybe, being able to affect more damage if it's a direct damage, or they combine multiple effects. There's a metal skin mega mutation, which is like strength bonus, armor class bonus, and I want to say hit point bonus. All wrapped up into a single ability, and it's pretty awesome. The mega mentals have some pretty crazy effects. There's a power that draw all of your required nourishment from another dimension, so you don't have to breathe or eat or anything. And then, of course, there's the defects, which I referred to as the sad trombone of mutations. If you know the Price is Right, most of them are straight up detrimental. There's a handful where when I was going through, I noticed that maybe it would give you like a little bit of a bonus, but it would also then like come and hit you for a big negative. So like you might have something like a vestigial carapace where it's like you get a +1 AC, but you're also like reducing your speed by half, and maybe your agility goes down because it's this big clumsy thing on your back. So it's like you get that tiny little sliver of good, but a bunch of bad. And the defects, they work the same way as the regular mutations. So you roll a d20, you add your mutation check bonus, which is, I think, always your level, and that's it, unless you have like a special thing. And then you consult the chart. So like if you roll really well, then the defect is like a little defect. And if you roll like really bad, then it's a really, really bad defect. So the defects are kind of a unique thing. So select mutations. Why don't we pick a mutation or a defect or whatever that we really like, and we'll discuss it for a little bit and kind of pad out this section because we're probably not running long enough. Jim, why don't you kick us off?
All right. So I'm going to go with assimilation, which was the one that our player Ella had at our game with Norman Game Nights. That was brutal. It is a mega mental mutation with a range of line of sight, various duration, and a save will versus the mutation check. And this is one of those ones that if you roll a 1, mutation may not be used again that day. Roll in the defects table. So, Mark, as your point earlier, now that I read the rules, it's not lost forever. If you roll low on this check, a 14 is what you need to do anything. You cloud a target creature's thoughts, and they have a penalty with their die rolling after that. They go down 1 die step for 1d4 +1 rounds. And as you roll higher, you start to get control of these characters. Where it is brutal, it's a big step here. So a 30 to 31 lets you influence a number of target creatures equal to your level. If you're a first level mutant, you're influencing 1 character. And when you do this, you can do anything except for something that makes them be suicidal. If you hit a 32, you reach the nuke option on a 32. All targets and any targets within the line of sight must make a will save or fall under the complete control of the mutant, acting as extensions of his mind and body. All in line of sight. Line of sight's pretty darn long. That's easy to see people with line of sight. And here's the kicker. You're rolling a 32 on that. make your savers to 32. Oh, by the way, make your second save, because with a 32 or a 33, the mutant can have you kill yourself. Because, instructions to take actions that are blatantly suicidal allow the target to make a second will save. You ain't making no second will save against a 32, You're done. And all it really takes is your mutant, and this happened in our game, a mutant that, rolls a 16 and looks down and says, I'm going to burn myself into a husk. I'm going to glow burn myself to nothing, or luck burn myself to nothing. So I think she tossed a few points of glow burn in and then lucked the rest of it. So that's assimilation. Super dangerous with glow burn.
Nice.
Well, you got Goldburn before the roll, so,
Right. Yeah, she did. I think she did it was towards the end of the game. So obviously it's one of those things that happens in a game. She burned 8 points of glow burn, rolled a 19, only had to go 6 or 7 more points. It wasn't far.
Smoke them if you got them, right?
Yeah, well, on a one-off, that's how it works, right?
Yep.
Forrest?
So I'm going to, since we can't agree on anything except Van Hagar, I'm going to go totally on the opposite end.
There's no unless that's cut into the show somehow. That's not in our show.
So Mark, Van Halen or Van Hagar?
Van Hagar. He had so much more talent. He was so much more talented than what's his name?
If I had to choose which version of Van Halen I prefer, it would be Van Hagar.
Okay, good. Yay.
I love how he had to hesitate. Wait, you're a Sam Hagar fan, Forrest?
Yeah. Oh, I love. Oh, no. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, man. Okay. Wow. We can't agree on this.
Absolutely. Way better than Van Halen. Oh, God. I hate David Lee Roth, guys.
Oh, he was the worst.
There's some decent songs from those early albums.
It was okay. Not as good as Hagar, though. No, I like Hagar a lot. I've liked him since he was back with Montrose. I mean, that guy.
OU812 was such a pivotal album in my life.
I was about to say 5150 is where it's at.
So we can all agree, though. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we found the one thing that keeps us from disagreeing about everything.
So I'm going to go the opposite direction, though. I like to choose as my one featured mutation all of the defects. Since you went with the mega nuclear option, I'm going, I don't know what you'd call it, the flop option. I seriously love the defects. And because, and I quote directly from the book, "You're no hero," right? Defects are the ultimate antidote for power gaming, as far as I'm concerned. They force you to use your imagination to get creative, to sidestep or overcome your difficulties. And they also provide for great role-playing opportunities and usually a great deal of humor. If I was forced to pick one above the rest, I'd choose mental block. That's a mutational defect that will force a party to interact in order to compensate for, let's say, James' inability to see manimals or Forrest's inability to commit to combat, especially when everybody else is down, right? Or Mark's inability to use anything above tech level 2 because it's demon magic. So this is. Yeah, see, this could really build camaraderie, and heaven knows the post-apocalypse needs more communists.
Commie mutant traitors.
I took a look at that at Mental Block after seeing this in the show notes, and I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty amusing.
It could be really entertaining. I've run it back in my Gamma World days. I had somebody had a mental block on robots. Couldn't see them. Didn't know they existed, didn't believe in them. It was like the fake moon landing thing, like, no, robots are fake. You're lying to me. You're making that up. And in the meantime, the rest of the party's getting killed by a death machine. Yep. So
nice.
What do you got, Mark?
So personally, I like the active powers a little bit more than the passive ones. So the passive ones are cool and all, but I don't know, there's something about a good active power. And to me, there's nothing more quintessential for a post-apocalypse radiation-soaked game than radiation generation. I mean, it's awesome. It's a direct damage, so at the minimum roll, which is a 12 to 13, it's a D6 damage to the target. They can save for half. At the highest result, though, it is so awesome. So at 32 plus... The mutant's body temporarily achieves active fusion, releasing 10d6 radiation blast in a 100-foot radius centered on the mutant. Affected targets missing their save are blinded for d6 rounds. All organic possessions and clothing are disintegrated, and targets are irradiated for an additional d6 rounds, suffering d6 burn damage per round.
So it's a neutron bomb, basically.
That is a tiny little nuke, and it is so cool. And I mean, the lower levels, like after 18, they all do a certain amount of damage, and then they have a sort of burn effect that lasts for a certain amount of rounds. So, you know, it's very flavorful, like I said, it fits really well into the setting. But it's a really cool effect that I don't know that I've seen on a DCC spell, where it's some upfront damage and then some back end damage that isn't just fire. You know, you can't just stop, drop, and roll, right? Like, you can't stop, drop, and roll the radiation away. It doesn't work. And I really, really liked radiation generation.
Well, I think it's time to make some mutagenesis stuff of our own, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps.
Mutagenesis.
Welcome to the Mutagenesis. This is where we take something from media or other game systems and take a stab at converting them for Mutant Crawl Classics RPG use. So James, what do you have for your Mutagenesis this time around?
I'm so lazy with this, and I'm so sorry, people, that I'm going to put you through this. But, you know, it's been busy over here, and I have had in the show notes for a while now just the term Cyber Centaur because of a previous episode. And I'm like, should I make something from scratch? And I tried to sketch something out, and I couldn't. So then I came up with a second name, which was just Human Centaurpede. And I was going to stat that out, but I couldn't.
That's terrible.
So then I decided, you know what? Why not both? Okay? And I think what I'm trying to get to here, with the goal of what you're going to go through is about, okay, is the idea that you can just take stuff from Dungeon Crawl Classics and you make a couple modifications and you got something from MCC. So let's talk about the original Centaur from DCC. Kind of meh. You know, it's fast. Can like hoof you a bit with its hoof and has a bow. But with some fun modifications, you can make your Centaurs more centaurific. So start with the base stats from page 398 of the DCC core book. Yes, I know it's the MCC podcast, but if you don't have DCC, do yourself a favor and go get it now. I'm using assimilation on you. Go get it now. Now. All right. So we're going to wait. We're going to actually pause the podcast until you do it, okay? So now you pause the podcast, right? And you unpause it. Never mind. Okay. All right. So Cyber Centaurs. New AC is 18. Why? Because they're metal. All right, like super metal. And as a special attack, they have the Domination Ray as per page 69 of the MCC rulebook. I mean, it's just a mutation, but it's great for Cyber Centaurs, kind of like the Borg or Cybermen from Doctor Who, that vibe. So that's Cyber Centaurs. So that would be enough, but to put this over the top, we're going to go with the Human Centaurpede. I'm not going to say where this comes from.
It's over the top.
Let's just say that maybe you should find out. All right, this would be 3 centaurs.
Don't find out.
3 centaurs connected via the gastric system by a certain doctor found only in the wastelands. Okay? And the 3 centaurs connect in a way that's pretty unwieldy. So the same stats of a centaur, except they have 6d8 HP instead of, 2d8 because there's 3 of them. An armor class of 7. That's really easy to hit them. But 6d14 action dice. All right? Now, here's the thing. They're pretty furious for being connected the way they're connected. But there's still a lot of hoofing they can do. But it's kind of hard to hoof you when they're connected. So, if you want, give it a mutation or 3. Maybe the one in the front has radiation generation. The one in the middle has, I don't know.
Gas generation?
Gas generation. And the one in the third is just really pissed off. I don't know.
God.
So I think the moral of this story is, if there's a moral, is number one, I probably should have more time for creating mutagenesis next month that just isn't connecting 3 centaurs together. But number two, make whatever you want. It's your game. Mark, did you connect 4 centaurs together?
I connected no centaurs together.
Fail.
Oh goodness. So I have a alternate rule rather than a new creature or a new piece of tech.
You would.
So I'm actually going to, I came up with this while I was, prepping for this episode, and I think I'm going to institute it in my game and see how it works.
Uh-oh.
So Mighty Deeds of Artifacts. So the DCC warriors get Mighty Deeds of Arms, which is basically like Joe Goodman's answer to an entire book worth of feats. And it's probably the best mechanic out of DCC in my opinion, and I love it a lot. And NCC doesn't have it at all, and that made me sad. So Mighty Deeds of Artifacts are essentially going to be added to Sentinels. So they already get a bonus die when they use weapon and armor artifacts. It starts off at a D3 and it goes up a die step every level. So with the Mighty Deeds of Artifacts, when they roll that die for using a artifact weapon or an artifact armor, they can declare a Mighty Deed of Artifact. And so long as it is something that uses that artifact. So they can't say that their Mighty Deed is to kick the guy in the shins, because that has nothing to do with the artifact unless it's artifact armor. But if they're using a laser pistol, that doesn't really fit. But maybe if they're using a laser pistol, their artifact, their Mighty Deed of Arms could be that they want to shoot the robot and have the laser beam bounce off the shiny robot and come and hit the other guy in the back or something like that. And so just like in DCC, if they roll a +3 or roll a 3 or higher on their artifact die, then that is a success, assuming that the attack hits, and their Mighty Deed of Artifact goes off. It'll have varying degrees of effect. If you're only rolling if you only get a 3, maybe you don't do a whole lot of damage to that guy. You just hit in the back of the head with your laser blast. But if you roll like a 10, because you're a high-level character, then it's pretty awesome, and, you just punked a hole through his head. I don't think it's a super complex thing to integrate into the game, especially if you've got people who are already familiar with DCC. And because everybody in the party can be using artifacts, like, Sentinels can start to feel a little bit whitewashed. I'm going to use that term. The artifact die helps a little bit, but I think this will give them an extra little leg up in terms of being able to do some cool stuff that nobody else can do. And that's the kind of stuff I like in my games. So, yeah.
Maybe the healer should have an artifact die for healing items.
So I'm trying to figure out a way to make healers a little bit better than just, hey, I can use a med pack even better than you can. And I mean, the healing herbs are nice, but it's not enough.
Would you say that they're good at that the healer probably has the best chance at performing surgeries?
I mean, they definitely would have the best chance of doing things like setting bones and,
sewing centaurs together.
Possibly sewing centaurs together.
That's where I was going with this. I'm glad Judge Forrest got there first.
I was hoping that it wouldn't go there, but I see that we have been dragged into the muck.
Down the rabbit hole.
So I'm going to segue by saying, Forrest, what have you got for the mutagenesis?
Oh boy. Well, since the theme of mutagenesis this time seems to be I don't have any time or I'm lazy. I'm lazy and I don't have any time. So I seem to be able to get artifacts together pretty quickly though. And so here's my artifact this time around. It's called the Quantum Holographic Projector Belt. Tech level 4, complexity modifier 4. Range is special, powered, your typical C cell gives 20 charges, F cell 40, U cell unlimited. So this belt, when activated, projects a perfect holographic image of the wearer up to 100 feet away. The projection is not blocked by matter or electronic interference, so you could sit in your basement, project something out onto the street above you, whatever, but you can't necessarily see the image from where you're at, unless you have some other means of doing that. But the projected image exactly mirrors the wearer's every move. So the image can pick up nearby physical objects and manipulate them, but they can't make actions that emanate from the belt wearer's being, I guess is the best way to put it. So the image could pick up and throw a rock so long as the wearer initiates the action as if he was physically where the image is now. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you're acting like you're picking up a rock, so the image actually does pick up a rock and throw it. Yep. But the image could not, for example, use gas generation, which seems to be a theme of the show. Though the image could appear as if it was generating gas, which I don't even want to think about. But it could appear that way, but he can't actually do it. So, of course, the first thing the players will ask is, what if the image is attacked? So the effects of quantum entanglement kick in. Are you guys familiar with quantum entanglement?
Yep.
No.
Okay, so the idea is that basically you can have a particle that is quantumly entangled with another particle, and it could be literally on the other side of the universe, and if you spin it one way, spin one of them one way, the other one has to spin that way also. Okay? It's a quantum effect. So in this case, the effects of quantum entanglement will kick in, and the wearer might be affected if his image is attacked. So if the image is attacked, the wearer of the belt makes a will save. And here's where I'm going totally opposite what I was saying earlier that it's good to roll under. So here are the results. If your roll on your save is a 15 or higher, there's no effect on the image or the wearer if the image is attacked again. If the roll is 12 to 15, the image wavers and shimmers, so it kind of gives away the fact that it's not really a physical person there, that it's just an illusion. If the roll is between 9 and a 12, the image disappears and has to be restarted, so you have to use another charge up if the belt wearer wants to continue using the image as he has been. If the roll is 6 to 8, the image disappears, and the quantum entanglement feedback stuns the belt wearer for 1d6 rounds, during which he may do nothing but focus on recovering from the stunning effect. If the save roll is a 2 to a 7, the image disappears, and quantum entanglement feedback stuns the belt wearer for 2d10 rounds, as well as doing 1d3 hit points of damage to the wearer. Now, if you roll a 1, this is where things get really fun. The image and the wearer coalesce. They meld into one being at the location of the physical person. The wearer is still a physical being, but all their physical statistics are cut in half.
Ooh. Whoa.
Strength, agility, stamina are all permanently cut in half.
Round up or round down?
We could be nice and round up. It's fine. It's gonna hurt either way. All hit points are permanently cut in half. And he or she feels only partially present, which has kind of a deleterious effect on the personality, cutting that score in half as well, because you're like feeling like you're half a person. Any further attempt at using the belt by the character in this condition causes a quantum implosion, destroying the character and doing 2d20 points of damage to all within a 30-foot radius.
Damn.
So high risk, high reward, which I love. But yeah, you could end up blowing yourself up pretty good there, or, cutting yourself into half a person, so to speak.
Maybe your stats should be like, it should be a true half. If your stats is 7, it becomes a 3.5 and be like,
ooh, I like
if the
that.
player's like complains, or what does that mean? Just say, heck with you. Now your stats an R. And like, what's that mean? It's like, it's a letter. That's what you get. You get a letter. And then it's really confused. Like, it's quantum.
Go to Greek letters at that point, right?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, you're an Omicron, right?
I would take all of the half points and I would add them up, and then I would give them to a different player.
Ooh,
that is nice.
That's really mean. You're meaner than I am.
The only other thing I was going to say is I actually really like all of this, except I think I would have them make an artifact check rather than a will save.
Oh, yeah. That might work better. Yeah.
Only because like some of it seems to be very technical versus like personal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is I mean, obviously I'm assuming anyway this is from the Total Recall factor.
I don't know, it just kind of popped in my head, so
I think wasn't that Escape from New York or Escape from LA?
No, maybe Escape from LA. I don't know. I've only seen that one because it was bad. But Total Recall, Arnie had that wristband that projected his image. Oh,
he did. Yeah,
that's right.
And he used it to like I think he got behind a group of guys who were hunting him down and was able to like gun them down from behind because the hologram confused him.
I might have been subconsciously channeling that.
That's what I honestly thought that's what you were doing.
You read my mind.
Next month, you're going to come up with that middle-aged woman head that can come off and explode, right?
2 weeks.
Ew.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Ew.
Speaking of 2 weeks, let's wrap this up. All right, wrapping things up here in the closing for our announcements. Coming soon is Gen Con, August 2nd to the 5th in Indianapolis, Indiana. Lots and lots of DCC and MCC, including the epic return of the tournament. Sounds like Lankmar and PDF will be out by then, and fingers are crossed, and Judge Mark will be there at Gen Con, right?
I will. Yeah, my schedule is stupid, but I'm hoping to make at least a couple of appearances in the DCC room and hopefully an after-hours appearance.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Save Against Fear is in October 12th to 14th at the Harrisburg, PA Mall. New con to explore, close to where I'm living. So that's on here. And another con that's close by, I'm really just trying to say to people, come visit me at this point, right? Is
Are you lonely?
the ones I know about, right? Is PAX Unplugged, November 30th, December 2nd, at the Philadelphia Convention Center, which is another con near me, and Judge Mark's coming down to that one too.
I am. I'm making the drive. It's only about 5 hours. I figure I can do that.
I will say that for both Save Against Fear and PAX Unplugged, there may have been some other folks in the DCC universe that have brought... Actually, Save Against Fear, Brendan LaSalle sent that one over to me to see if I was interested in going. I think he's going to that. So it's not just me going to these things. I'm just the peon showing up. And then Gamehole Con is November 8th to 11th. That's where you're going to find Judge Forrest. And he'll be running Killer of Giants one last time at a con. One last time?
I think so. I think it's about time to retire from the con.
All the Giants are dead, huh?
I've had a lot of fun with that module, but yeah, it's time to do some new stuff. All right, as far as Mutant Crawl Classics availability goes, the PDF is now available via One Bookshelf. The first print edition was for sale, but it is officially sold out, and it sold out quick. So if you see it in the wild, you'll want to grab a copy. Get lots of people to sign it. The second printing is already on order, according to Goodman Games. I am sitting here caressing my foil edition right now as we speak. It is beautiful. Anyway, Stephen Newton's Children of the Fallen Sun is now available for the non-Kickstarter public, and the Twisted Menagerie manual for Crawling Under a Broken Moon is now available. Get yourself some really weird creatures to inject into your MCC game.
So you can contact us. Twitter, we are at Glowburn. Email is glowburnpodcast@gmail.com. And the Google Plus Glowburn community. Myself, you can get me on Twitter at InspStrikes, INSPSTRIKES. Or you can find my blog at inspstrikes.blogspot.com. And of course, I'm on Google Plus. My first name is with a C, not a K. So if you look for Mark Plord, you want to use a C, it'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, and I'm at ILiveForCrits, the number 4. And livingforcrits.com is my website, which, again, now has some stuff on the blogging. And I'm on G Plus too, I think. I am. Why did I say I think? I am on G Plus. I'm there.
Yeah, I think you are. I am on Twitter at Forrestaguirre. That's FORRESTAGUIRRE. Just like it sounds, except when James Price tries to spell it and pronounce it. But
I can pronounce it.
And my website is forrestaguirre.blogspot.com. Again, just like it sounds. And I'm also on G+, Forrestaguirre. Kind of imaginative, huh?
So special thanks and credits are Shaman of intros, outros, and bumpers, Bob the Voice Brinkman. The patron AI of audio-visual engineering, Hector the Missile Cruz. Our creative advisors, the Google Plus community, currently 355 strong, XXX. XXX. The intro and outro song is Chronox, that's the group, off the Voyager album, and the song title is Juno. Any final words, guys? Jim?
Open your mind.
The sound of the hoofs you hear in the outro is not the human centipede.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. All right, yeah, guys, and I'm just going to say, maybe we should do this a little bit more often, like 2 weeks, or...
2
weeks. 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Night.
Good night.
Ariel, Ookla, ride! Mr. Gorbachev.
out of your enemy makes you stronger.
This has been a Hectophonic production. The gun is good, 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 the gun. Quaid, open your mind.